You've probably heard that dark berries and antioxidant-rich juices are good for the brain and eyes, and that's true. But what that advice never mentions is that when you drink them matters just as much, and for 4 specific juices, the hour before bed is when the research shows they do their most important work. Because your brain doesn't rest when you sleep. It repairs, it consolidates memory, it flushes out the cellular waste that builds up during the day, and certain compounds in these juices work with that window in a way that just doesn't happen at any other time. The research behind this is real. Randomized controlled trials, university studies, thousands of participants, years of follow-up. And some of the findings are genuinely surprising. We're going to cover 4 juices. What they do, why the evening timing matters, and specifically what the evidence says about vision and memory. And at least one of them is probably already in your fridge. So let's talk about what's actually going on. Because once you understand the mechanism, the juice stuff clicks immediately. Your brain has a cleaning system. It's called the glymphatic system, and it runs almost exclusively during sleep. What it does is flush out the waste products that accumulate in the brain during the day. One of those waste products is amyloid beta, the protein that builds up into the plaques associated with Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. So what does that mean for you? Every night of poor sleep is a night your brain's cleaning crew showed up short-staffed. The waste stays, it accumulates, and over years, that accumulation is part of what drives the memory problems people write off as just getting older. Vision follows a similar pattern. The cells in your retina are some of the hardest working cells in your entire body. They burn through energy and produce oxidative waste at a rate almost nothing else in the body matches, and overnight, when you're not bombarding them with light and screen exposure, they're supposed to repair. Supposed to, if the conditions are right. The problem is that after 50, 2 things are happening at once. Your body is producing fewer of the protective compounds that shield those cells from damage, and you're getting less of the deep restorative sleep where the repair actually happens. Less protection and less repair time, and most people don't feel it until the damage is already done. AMD, age-related macular degeneration, is the leading cause of blindness in adults over 65 in the United States. Not accidents, not injury, a slow, quiet process of damage to cells that weren't getting what they needed. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because this isn't a distant, abstract risk. This is the difference between reading your grandchildren a bedtime story at 75, really reading it, seeing their faces, and struggling to make out the words on a page. That's what's on the line. The good news, and there is real good news here, is that these processes are not inevitable. They're not locked in. The research is showing us that specific compounds, consumed consistently and at the right time of day, can meaningfully slow or partially reverse both of them. That's what we're getting into now. The first one is Montmorency tart cherry juice, and it has the most direct connection to the bedtime angle, because it's not just what it does for your brain, it's when it works. Tart cherries are one of the only natural food sources of melatonin. You know melatonin, your body produces it to signal that it's time to sleep. But the melatonin in tart cherry juice isn't acting the way a supplement does. It's not hitting you with a big dose. What it's doing is working alongside another compound in the juice called tryptophan, a building block of serotonin, and together they're extending and deepening the sleep your body would already be trying to have. And in practice, what does that look like? There was a study out of Pennington Biomedical Research Center, adults over 50, all of them dealing with chronic insomnia. They drank tart cherry juice twice a day, once in the morning and once about an hour before bed. After just 2 weeks, they were sleeping an average of 84 minutes more per night than the placebo group. 84 minutes. That's not a rounding error. That's over an hour of additional sleep, which means over an hour more of your brain's cleaning system running, over an hour more of memory consolidation every single night. And this connects back to what we said earlier, that cleaning crew that shows up during sleep. More deep sleep means more waste cleared, more amyloid beta flushed out before it has a chance to accumulate. But the memory benefits don't stop there. Researchers at the University of Delaware ran a 12-week randomized controlled trial with adults between 65 and 80. One group drank Montmorency tart cherry juice every day, the other drank a placebo. At the end of 12 weeks, the cherry juice group showed an 18% reduction in errors on a spatial working memory test and a measurable improvement in visual sustained attention. That's the ability to track moving objects, stay focused on a task, catch details. Things that quietly erode as we get older and that most people don't even notice slipping until they're already gone. The variety matters here. Montmorency, the tart kind, not the sweet dark cherries you'd put on a sundae. Concentrate is fine. Look for one with no added sugar, and about 8 ounces an hour before bed is the amount used in the research. This next one surprises people. Pomegranate juice has a reputation as a heart health drink, and yes, that's true. But what the research is finding about its effects on the brain is something most people have never heard. Researchers at UCLA ran a placebo-controlled trial with adults who had mild, self-reported memory complaints, not dementia, just that frustrating feeling of walking into a room and forgetting why, or losing a word mid-sentence that you've known for decades. These were people living with exactly what a lot of you are probably experiencing right now. Half of them drank 8 ounces of pomegranate juice every day for 4 weeks. The other half drank a placebo that looked and tasted identical. Then they ran memory tests and fMRI brain scans while participants were actively doing those memory tasks. The pomegranate group didn't just score better on the tests. Their brains were measurably more active during those tasks, increased blood flow to regions involved in both verbal and visual memory. You could see it on the scan. And then a separate team ran a longer trial, 12 months. 261 people, ages 50 to 75, double-blind, randomized. The finding: daily pomegranate juice stabilized the ability to learn and retain visual information over the full year. In the placebo group, that ability declined. In the pomegranate group, it held. 1 year. That's not a short-term effect. The mechanism is a compound called urolithin A, a metabolite your gut produces when it breaks down pomegranate's polyphenols. It crosses into the brain and reduces the chronic low-grade inflammation that silently chips away at memory over time. Not dramatic, quiet, consistent, protective. 8 ounces in the evening, pure pomegranate juice, not a blend. Now, beet juice. This one is about blood flow, specifically to the brain. Your brain runs on oxygen. The frontal lobes, the areas tied to reasoning, memory retrieval, and decision-making, are the first to suffer when blood flow starts declining. And it does decline with age, gradually, quietly, in a way most people don't notice until they're trying to recall a name and it just isn't there. Beetroot juice is loaded with nitrates. When you consume them, your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes and opens blood vessels, including the ones feeding your brain. Wake Forest University published the first study to directly image what beet juice does to blood flow in the aging brain. 14 adults, all over 70. After a high nitrate breakfast that included beet juice, MRI scans showed significantly increased blood flow specifically to the white matter of the frontal lobes, the areas most associated with early cognitive degeneration. And here's why that matters in a way I really want you to understand. Cognitive decline doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive one day like a diagnosis. It creeps. It shows up as taking a few extra seconds to recall something, or losing track of a conversation you've had 100 times. That's how it starts. Most people don't even name it yet. Most people chalk it up to stress, or a bad night's sleep, or just getting older. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, for people who aren't actively protecting blood flow to the brain, that creep becomes something harder to ignore. It's the difference between the person who drives themselves to appointments at 80 and the person who handed over their keys at 72 and couldn't tell you exactly when things started sliding. I've seen both, and the people on the better end of that outcome almost always did something consistently earlier before it felt urgent. Beet juice in the evening, about 8 ounces, not glamorous. But what it's quietly doing inside your blood vessels while you sleep is worth taking seriously. The last one brings us back to vision, and it has the most direct, longest-running evidence we have on protecting the eyes themselves. Blueberry juice. The key compounds here are anthocyanins, the pigments that give blueberries their deep blue-purple color. In the retina, those anthocyanins do something specific. They reduce oxidative stress in the cells that sit just behind your retina and keep your photoreceptors, your light-sensing cells, alive and functional. When those supporting cells break down, the photoreceptors start to die. That's AMD. That's the vision loss we talked about earlier. The scale of the evidence on this is significant. Researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital followed over 36,000 women for an average of 11 years. They tracked blueberry consumption, they tracked eye disease outcomes, and what they found was this. Women who ate at least 1 serving of blueberries per week had a 32% lower risk of developing age-related macular degeneration compared to women who ate none. 32%. From 1 serving a week. And you see where this connects back, right? Remember what we said about those retinal cells doing their repair work overnight, but only if the conditions are right. The anthocyanins in blueberry juice are part of what creates those conditions. They're not rebuilding damaged cells, but they're protecting the ones you still have, reducing the daily oxidative load so that the overnight repair process actually has something to work with. Blueberry juice is slightly harder to find in pure form than the others. Look for a cold-pressed or unsweetened version, not a blend that lists blueberry 15th on the ingredients. About 6 to 8 ounces in the evening. A high-quality concentrate mixed with water works just as well. So here's where this leaves you. Pick one. The one that maps most directly to what you're dealing with, whether that's sleep that isn't deep enough, memory that feels less reliable than it used to, or vision you want to protect before it becomes a problem. Be consistent with it. A month of 1 juice done every evening will do more than a week of all 4 done perfectly and then abandoned. Because here's what I think about when I make these videos. Someone watching this right now is 5 or 10 years away from a version of themselves they'd recognize. Still sharp, still independent, still doing the things they love. And someone else watching this is 5 or 10 years away from wondering when things started to slip and why nobody told them sooner. The difference between those two people is rarely one big decision. It's 100 small, consistent ones. This is one of them. If this was useful, hit subscribe. There's more coming on this topic, and I want you to have it. Take care of yourself.